Good morning, everyone. My name is Adam Livingston, and I am the Bitcoin Wizard. Happy Saturday, folks. We have seen lots of crybabies online because Bitcoin is dipping again. So yes, maybe the pain is real for these folks, but the stupidity is somehow even more real. We're talking about Bitcoin bear markets today, which are not crashes and they are not corrections. They are not even black swan events. These are automated wealth redistribution machines designed specifically to separate morons from their money with clinical precision. And it works every single time without fail. Every single cycle, the same geniuses show up like goldfish with amnesia. Bitcoin dips 40% and suddenly they are financial philosophers. Bro, I think this bull run is over. I'm selling. Oh, are ya? You're selling? Wow, that's just incredible. You have solved the world's hardest monetary puzzle with the intellectual horsepower of a vape pen. And Bitcoiners, actual Bitcoiners, we are sitting here all clinically dead inside. We are emotionless. We are buying the dip like we are restocking apocalypse supplies. Because we've seen this movie 17 times and we all know how it ends. The weak die and the strong get their beachfront property in the future. I think it's ridiculous when people call bear markets punishments, tragedies, or unfortunate downturns because they are the system that is flushing the low IQ. This is why a disproportionate amount of the wealth in the world is held by the smart people. And with Bitcoin, we see this wealth extraction mechanism, i.e. a bear market, happen with a lot more volatility, and it is glorious. Every single Bitcoin bear market literally just politely taps the tourist on the shoulder and says, hey champ, you're too stupid to be here. Why don't you go back and buy some QQQ and stop embarrassing yourself? And this is the best part. The same people who sell the local bottom, they come crawling back 2 years later asking if it's still a good time to buy when Bitcoin is 4x the price. These are adult human beings with jobs and tax returns who behave like children sticking forks into electrical outlets. Bitcoin bear markets are a test, and don't you forget it. They are very open book tests, and yet people still fail repeatedly and with a lot of passion. So yes, Bitcoin crashes 70%. In fact, 4 separate times, and every single time the tourists, they all leave in tears. Bitcoiners scoop up their coins like raccoons in a dumpster, and then a year later the price makes a new all-time high and the whole thing resets. It's not complicated, it's not mystical, it's not emotional. Bitcoin bear markets are a wealth extraction mechanism for stupid people. And the results, well, they speak for themselves. You held through hell, they panic sold to a hedge fund. You got rich, well, they bought an ETF and a coping potion. But before we get started today, I really want to give a thank you to Horizon for sponsoring this video. Guys, if you want to buy the Bitcoin dip right now using that trapped home equity in your house, Horizon can help you do that, and you don't have to take out debt, you don't have monthly payments, and there's no term limits either. You literally get the money and then you take that and go buy Bitcoin. It's really easy. They'll help you out every step of the way. Check out the link in the description below. I'll talk more about them at the end of the video. I want you to look at this slide right here. Pause the video if you have to. This is the part of my presentation today where every wannabe genius trader, they start crying into their Celsius bankruptcy claim. Because these numbers prove what Bitcoiners have known since the beginning. The people who survive the bear markets obliterate the people who try to outsmart them. Every cycle has these psychopaths who show up with 17 indicators. A Discord subscription as well as a dream. They spend their entire lives drawing lines on TradingView like they're planning an escape from a maximum security prison. Then Bitcoin moves 3% and their entire thesis collapses like a folding chair under an overweight contractor. Meanwhile, the survivors, the people who just buy and touch grass, they are outpacing everyone like they've unlocked a cheat code. Because here's the reality, the guy who bought the absolute top in 2017 and did absolutely nothing is up almost 5x today. 5 times. The I'm never selling guy beat every single clown who spent years trying to time bottoms with YouTube astrology. And the compound annual growth rate is 22% from the worst possible entry, 22% from Max Payne. Meanwhile, all of the equities are coughing up 6% like some boomer savings bond, and gold is growing at 2% like a houseplant in a basement. Yeah, I am aware that gold moved up a little bit this year. Guess what? it's nothing compared to the Bitcoin CAGR over the last 5 years. So gold bugs, shut your mouths. 272% in 5 years. Fun fact, that number is illegal in some countries. If a mutual fund returned that number, the CEO would be assassinated by the Federal Reserve during a fake boating accident. Dollar cost averaging $100 a week since 2018 beats every single genius who sat there for 6 years waiting for the perfect entry, like some doomsday prepper who leaves their bunker for a McFlurry and gets eaten by a bear. Bitcoin rewards people who stay alive. That's it. You don't need to overcomplicate this. You don't even need a strategy. You don't need a signal. You just need emotional stability with dollar cost averaging. The emotional stability of a serial killer and the patience of someone that's serving a life sentence. You need to cover both of those bases. The timers will always blow up and the survivors will always win. This is the asset where people doing absolutely nothing are the ones that are humiliating the people doing everything. And honestly, I think that is beautiful. Now it's time to talk about volatility and not the Wall Street version where some guy in a Patagonia vest pretends like he understands risk while eating a Greek yogurt. I mean something called Bitcoin volatility, which is obviously a very completely different animal. Bitcoin volatility is like a cleansing fire that burns stupidity out of the system because every time Bitcoin drops 40%, the same group of the emotionally fragile day trading psychopaths, they get vaporized instantly. They scream, they panic, they sell their bags to some long-term psychopath who hasn't felt a real emotion since 2013. And that's the whole point. Volatility itself is the redistribution mechanism. This is why I don't cry like some low IQ little rat boy when Metaplanet goes down 70%. Because I believe in Bitcoin. I believe in the future. I don't care what your investing time horizon is. I have mine. This hyper volatile system transfers coins from the weak, the twitchy, the chronically online on Reddit to the people who actually know what the hell they bought. Just look at the numbers. The illiquid supply hit almost 15 million coins by December 2024. The exchanges barely hold anything anymore. Everyone pulled their Bitcoin off Coinbase the second that Gary Gensler tried to blink in their general direction. The float of Bitcoin is gone. There's nothing left for the clowns to trade. It's all in the cold wallets of people who forgot that they even have it. And do you know what happens next? The price isn't going to go up gradually. It is going to detonate. It is going to launch because there will be no supply left. The only people selling right now are these short-term gamblers who got margin called at 3 o'clock in the morning and need to liquidate their remaining crumbs to pay their electrical bill so they can go get more leverage. Volatility is not your enemy. It is not a bug. It is not a flaw. It is an IQ test. And every single price crash is an exam to test you to see if you know what you bought. And most people fail at this so catastrophically that their coins get redistributed to someone who buys once a month and doesn't even look at their screen ever. Bitcoin rewards low time preference like it's a religion. If you hold through the chaos and accumulate at prices that will never be seen again, that's the whole game. The elites rig every single system that they touch, but for some reason, Bitcoin is the one market where the people who actually stay calm get rewarded and the jittery lunatics, they get obliterated. Volatility is the filter. Volatility is the audit, and volatility is your structural edge over long periods of time if you can even understand that. You survive, you win. If you don't, you feed the people who do. And when you look at the on-chain data, you know, the stuff that the Bloomberg analysts pretend to understand, this shows you exactly who runs the market. And spoiler alert, it's not the day traders, it's not the hedge funds, and it's definitely not the people panic selling because some YouTuber told them the RSI looks dangerous. Remember, technical analysis is astrology for men. The people who run Bitcoin are the absolute lunatics who lock their coins away for 155 days, they feel no emotion, and they basically vanish into the woods like an old Jedi Master hermit. These are the strong hands, and we're talking statistical dormancy, the coins that survive 155 days. Statistically, those are the ones that stay dormant. empowerment. These people are the psychos who treat Bitcoin the way normal people treat their birth certificate. And the data just proves it. 14.7 million coins are in long-term storage as of July 2025. That's 75% of the supply controlled by people who literally do not care if the price goes down 50% tomorrow because they have no feelings. They are psychopaths. They don't even blink. And the exchanges are sitting there with barely 3 million coins looking like a collapsing regional bank desperately begging for deposits. But nobody's giving them anything because everyone took their Bitcoin, they zipped it into a cold wallet and buried it with the family documents and the nuclear launch codes. And then we have the best part, which are the net outflows, because every single bear market, people pull coins off the exchanges like they are Jeffrey Dahmer on the loose. And yet somehow the supply keeps getting replenished by new coins hitting their 155-day mark and graduating into the vault. It's like a conveyor belt of deranged conviction. The weak hands who sell 3 million coins at the bottom, and the strong hands, they just absorb everything like a Dyson vacuum that is possessed by Satan. This is why every single cycle gets tighter, every supply squeeze gets uglier, and every rally becomes violent. The inventory shrinks, the tourists leave, the strong hands are hoarding coins like goblins protecting magic artifacts. You need to understand what wealth redistribution is in society. Bitcoin doesn't create wealth, it is creating a caste system. There are the weak, the ones who exit the market screaming, and then there are the strong who silently absorb the coins forever. That is why there are people who are meant to be rich and there are people who are meant to be poor, and this is the on-chain proof. That is the data, and that is why this asset behaves like a religious movement with a ledger. And here's the thing nobody in traditional finance wants to admit: Bitcoin doesn't need a bull market. It doesn't need hype. It doesn't need narratives. All it needs is the United States government doing exactly what it always does, setting its own balance sheet on fire like a drunk pyromaniac and then acting shocked when the flames get higher. So let's start with the debt. $38 trillion. That is the number. It's so big it doesn't even feel real. It's not a financial metric anymore. It is a cry for help. That number crossed the screen in October 25 and Washington literally just shrugged. They rang the bell like it was the opening of a shopping mall. There was no panic. There was no alarm. There was nothing, because remember, the entire system is so broken that $38 trillion of debt is now considered business as usual. But wait, it gets better. Interest payments are going to hit $952 billion this year. Yes, that's correct, Susan. Almost $1 trillion just to service the interest, which means our government is paying $1 trillion to not get foreclosed on. The United States government is the world's biggest, least responsible Airbnb host, milking the credit card for one last vacation. And there are people out in society that think Bitcoin is risky. We are living inside a debt death spiral, and the average American is still buying stocks because their HR department told them to. Yes, the same one that told you to put your pronouns on your name tag. And at the same time, the clown world Federal Reserve is sitting on a $6.6 trillion balance sheet like it's a hoarder, surrounded by newspapers from 2003, pretending it's all part of some plan. And quantitative tightening, well, that's ending the moment that the Treasury realized it couldn't fund a bake sale without issuing $400 billion of new bonds every single month. Liquidity dependence is not a theory anymore, children. It is the operating system, because they can't unwind anything. They can't normalize anything. They are locked into the permanent monetary life support until the sun burns out. And this is exactly why Bitcoin will always keep winning, and every single bear market in BTC is just some little intermission before the next episode of the US government accidentally purchases a money printer on QVC. The macro tailwinds aren't persistent, guys. They are literally institutionalized. The macro tailwinds are built into the system. So fiscal irresponsibility is now a core American value, like football or baseball or apple pie or pretending student loans will ever get forgiven. Every single year the debt grows. Every year the deficits explode. Every year the currency dies a little bit faster. Bitcoiners, we just sit there through the bear markets, completely emotionless, waiting for the next inevitable round of fiscal idiocy to do what it always does: make us richer. Because the truth is very simple. As long as the governments keep behaving like this, Bitcoin never needs a bull market because the macro backdrop itself is the bear market. Here's the situation. Bitcoin's supply is fixed, 21 million coins. That's it. That number is carved into digital stone. It won't change. It can't change. And yet every single month, the number of gigantic institutions demanding those coins keeps going up like the world's worst Black Friday sale. Let's start with the ETFs. These things are literally less than 2 years old. They've already hoovered up 1.35 million BTC, which is over 6% of the circulating supply. Instantly swallowed up by boomer index funds managed by people who don't know how to use two-factor authentication. BlackRock is out here eating coins like they're Pringles one after another, and the demand curve is vertical. And then you've got the corporations. The public companies now own 1 million coins, and over half of that is just Strategy alone. Michael Saylor is basically running a one-man sovereign wealth fund, accumulating Bitcoin like he's prepping for interplanetary war. Meanwhile, the normal CFOs are still sitting around conference tables debating whether they should buy more T-bills, as if anyone has ever gotten rich off government IOUs in the middle of some economic fiscal emergency. You've got ETFs, you've got corporates, you've got the sovereigns lurking in the shadows pretending they're not buying, even though every mid-level treasury officer in the world is secretly DCAing with their kids' college fund. And all of these entities, they're massive, hungry, they're dollar-bloated institutions. They are chasing the same tiny pile of coins. This is what we call a feeding frenzy. This is the last Costco rotisserie chicken surrounded by 30 hedge fund managers with sharpened forks. It doesn't take a genius to understand that in perpetuity, the supply will always be fixed. The halving cycle occurs once every 4 years. The claims will always explode because people hate inflation. So the early holders of Bitcoin will always win by mathematical default. They don't even need to be clever. They don't need to time anything. They just need to not sell to the idiots that are screaming about taking profits. And this is the structural truth that only the most serious Bitcoiners really understand. When you have a capped supply and accelerating demand from billion-dollar entities with zero self-control, the price doesn't go up. It will continue to escape orbit forever. You can either fight over Satoshis in the short term, or you can just keep buying Bitcoin. Don't look at the price chart and just sit on your cold storage with generational leverage and watch the institutions discover math in real time. It's glorious. A fixed supply with expanding claims is a slow motion corporate stampede, and only the early holders will ever get out alive. Winning in Bitcoin is not about being smart. It's not even about timing the top, and it's definitely not listening to some TikTok trading guru who looks like he hasn't slept since the ICO era. Winning is simply about having more Bitcoin than the next guy because you didn't emotionally implode during a red candle. The long-term holders control 60 to 75% of the supply. It's that simple. This is a group of people with iron lungs and dead souls fully capturing the asset while the rest of the world panic sells at the bottom like they're trying to speedrun their own poverty. Just look at the gain that happened in 2024. What other asset class does this? Real estate? Bonds? Your 401k? Please, those things are basically slow motion poverty machines. Bitcoin gives you triple-digit returns. But once again, a special thanks to Horizon for sponsoring this video. Most people don't realize this, but on average, 60% of American homeowners' net worth is locked up in their primary residence. And with home prices more inflated than ever, Americans now sit on a combined $35 trillion in home equity. Now there's a way to unlock that trapped capital and put it to work in Bitcoin. Horizon helps homeowners unlock a portion of their home equity to buy Bitcoin. It is not a loan, so there are no new monthly payments. You keep living in your home as usual, and then later when you sell, refinance, or choose to settle early, Horizon's provider takes an agreed share of your home's future value. That is the trade. Unlock cash now to stack Bitcoin by selling a slice of your home's future value while you continue living in it. What makes Horizon stand out is that there are no term limits and you keep 100% of the Bitcoin upside. The Bitcoin is fully yours to custody however you want, wherever you want, with no risk of forced liquidation. If you've been sitting on a pile of home equity and are eager to invest in Bitcoin, this may be the product for you. Visit joinhorizon.com to see if you qualify and get started. Their team of experts will work with you one-on-one from start to finish. Transform your dormant home equity into Bitcoin today with Horizon.